Hello. I'm going to show you how to make this basic tank structure from ACF using the AIO controller. This is an ACF-3, and this is generally what tank structures usually look like with all their components, without all the armor. It is very basic and simple. I will show you step by step. I'll show you different suspensions. I'll show you how to modify guns, all that. So the first thing you want to start off with is in your ACF menu, go to Entities, Baseplates. Make sure for your baseplate you have it set to ground vehicle. Make sure this is unchecked. You're going to want to use this. And then set whatever dimensions you want for your tank. When you look at it with the ACF menu tool, it will tell you which way is north, and that's the direction you want the front of your vehicle to be facing. So this is where I'm going to be building forward. Another good thing in options, if you have PhysGun build mode, highly recommend it. You want to get snappy building. And here's what it should look like, or generally look like. Another thing to note, how I'm going to be building tracks and suspension. I'm going to have the gearboxes linked to all these wheels, and it's not really going to look like a normal track. What I'm going to do is instead just go for the best mobility I can get with these wheels. And if you want it to look like tracks, I would recommend using the tank track tool, and in entities use the auto tank track tool. This is purely just visual, but it still works in the end. And it's less laggy for servers, so more performance and general more mobility in your tank overall. Another thing, you don't have to build your tracks like the way I have it, where the back and front wheels are elevated. You can build it something like this too, if you want. The only reason I built it like this is this has a better job at getting over obstacles like flat walls, if you want your tank to do that. If you don't want your tank to do that, you can just build something like this. Either way, it will still work in the end. Next thing you want to do is make a suspension for your chassis. So I'm going to use the ACF suspension tool. This does it in a very simple way. Ignore that. So there are various ways you can make suspension without this tool. It is a lot more effort, I guess, but in the end, it is still the same way. But I'm going to show you how to do it with this suspension tool. So for now, I'm going to use the rigid spring type. I'm going to show you how to do elastic later, but for now, I'll do rigid. So what you want to do is hold shift and right click your base plate. You get a purple text that says base plate, and then you right click all of your wheels, and it should look like that. Now create drivetrain. So now what it did is it accessed all of these wheels to the base plate, and I believe that's all it did. So you still want to work on it. So you do no collide. You don't want your wheels colliding with each other, otherwise it's not going to move. And then disable collisions on your base plate. The ACF base plate has a little mechanic that if it collides with other base plates, or ACF base plates, it will not go through each other. It'll just collide into it. So that's nice. All you really have to do is just no collide these. Next thing, go to Ball Socket Advanced. I have this saved as a preset. You can do that here. Just name it whatever, and then whatever settings you want to use. These are the settings you want to use to make all these wheels follow each other, which is what all the tanks should have, or all your tracks should have. These are the settings. So -1 for the minimum, and or negative 0.1 for the minimum and 0.1 for the maximum. And that's for X, Y, and Z. Make sure you have free movement checked. Once you do that, you just click on the first wheel, click the next, click on that wheel, and then just daisy chain it. And now if we grab a copy, spawn it, we should have suspension. We move it back, it rolls, move it forward, it rolls. And if we grab a wheel and then start spinning it, you'll notice all the other wheels are spinning. If you see that, then you've done it correctly. Once you have all that suspension done, go to Engines, just select whatever you want to use. The gearbox system or setup I'm going to use is CVT. I'm also using legacy gear ratios. If you know how to use the realistic ratios, which is the newer version of it, you can use it and set it up however you wish. I'm more used to the legacy gear ratio, so I'm going to prefer that. Make sure you have transaxle CVT. I'm going to use 1.5 scale. It doesn't matter what you use. Or, well, it does matter. You generally want to have more torque rating than what your engine can output. This is more than enough, so that's fine. Oh, for CVT, make sure gear 2. Gear 2 is your reverse gear, so that's going to want to be a negative. And your final drive is technically your first gear. You want that positive. For your min and max target RPM for CVT gears, you want to match the power band of whatever engine you're using. So 2920 to 3980. So you have that. We're going to use 2 transfer cases, inline transfer cases. And your gear 1 wants to be 1, gear 2, -1. Final drive. Final drive is important. Alright, so I believe it's for your left side, you want your final drive to be a positive, and for your right, you want it to be a negative. Let me change this to a negative. Once you have that, just go ahead and link them all up. And how I'm going to do this is the left gearbox is going to be linked to the right side. Right gearbox is going to be linked to the left side. I do this so this end has more space to link to all these wheels. So I'm going to hold shift and right click all these wheels, and then right click the gearbox, and now they're all linked. Your transmission system should look something like this, or generally the same if you're doing it a different way. Once you have all that set up, go to Controllers in the ACF menu and Entities. This is what's going to be controlling everything. And another thing, this thing has a built-in camera feature and a HUD to it. The camera position is relative to wherever this controller is. So if it's, let's say, in the center of the turret ring, which I'll add later, then the camera will be above the turret ring. Or if it's in the front here, the camera will be towards the front of the hole. And you can edit it in the settings, AIO settings, under camera specific settings. Your cam count, cam offset, cam orbit, all that. Once you have that, get multi-parent. You want to multi-parent your controller to your baseplate, and all your engine and gearboxes to the baseplate as well. Thing I forgot, go to Engines and spawn a fuel tank for your engine. Make sure you right-click your engine and link it to your fuel box. If you hover over your fuel box, it will show you where your engine, or what engine it's linked to. That's to our main engine, which is fine. And then you want to parent that to the hull as well. Next thing you want to do is click on controllers. And now you want to start linking it to your specific contraption or specific parts of your tank. So it also tells you in instructions what it can link to specifically. So it can link to your main gearbox, which that will be the CVT. Your main gearbox is going to be whatever is going to be changing gears, gearing up, gearing down. So that's what it's going to be linking to. You're going to want to link it to your turret, gun, or any gun, racks, that also counts as guns, so your missile racks, base plates, ballistic computers, so direct or indirect, warning receivers like laser warners or radar warning systems, and that's all that needs to be linked. So right click it, gearbox, then baseplate. You'll know it's linked when you see it in chat that it's blue text, successfully linked. And if you also hover over your controller when you have the ACF menu tool, it will show you exactly what is linked. So that is exactly what we need linked right now. Make sure when you're building, make a copy of what you're mainly building on. You don't ever want to unfreeze your main build. That's just bad. Now if you Alt-T on it, now it works. Hold A and D, spins the correct way. W, S, everything's working. Now it's very unstable to control, but that's mainly because there's no weight to this. Once we start adding weight, it will be more controllable, the more weight you add to it. Next thing you want to do, go to turrets, and there's two forms of turrets. You have your horizontal and your vertical. Both are important, depending on what you're making, I guess. But your ring diameter is important to determine how much weight you can put on your turret. If you exceed that weight, your turret is going to become very slow or just not be able to be used. So you want to make sure when you're building out your tank that it can handle the weight you're going to be putting on the turret. Max speed is, you should just leave it 0 unless you know what you're doing or want something specific. It tells you right here what it does, but for the tutorial, I'm just going to leave it 0. When you look at the turret with anything, your fizz gun, it will tell you which direction it should be facing with the orange arrow. So make sure that's facing towards the front of your tank. Or if you're doing something very specific, then you'll know which direction it's going to be facing. Once you have that down, go to turrets again. Make sure you get a vertical turret this time. Set your ring diameter to whatever you need. And paste it. This also tells you which direction it's facing with an orange arrow. Make sure you face it towards the front of the turret ring. The placement of your vertical towards your horizontal is important, because the way ACF has it set, when you parent the gun to your vertical, the mass, you'll see the mass scale on the turret ring. The mass of where it, or center of mass of where it is important to determining how fast the turret can be and how fast the gun can be up and down. So that is important. Once you have all that set, parent your horizontal turret to your base plate. Parent your vertical turret to your horizontal turret. So anything that's going to be rotating along the turret, you want to parent it to your horizontal. Anything that's going to be moving with your gun, parent it to your vertical. And anything that's going to be moving with your hull goes to your base plate, or parents to your base plate. That is the order in which things should be parented. Next thing you want to do is just go to weapons, choose whatever gun you want to use. I'm just going to use a cannon for the sake of this tutorial. 100mm, why not? Once you have it set up, parent the gun to the vertical turret. Now the next thing to do, go back to your controllers. Actually, I don't think it matters. Yeah, it doesn't matter, but right-click your all-in-one controller, right-click your or horizontal, or link it to your horizontal, link it to your vertical, and link your gun to it. Now if we hover over it, all those are linked. Now for our cannon, we want to make sure to give it ammo. I want to spawn 2 different types of ammo for test or to show you how it works. Once you have your ammo crates in place, parent them to your horizontal turret, and make sure they're linked to your main gun. So right-click your gun and right-click your ammo crates. Now they should be linked. And once all of this is linked up, your AIO should be will automatically determine what is linked to what, and everything should work as is. Another note for the AIO, it will also determine what kind of drivetrain you're using. So if you hover over it, it will tell you predicted drivetrain, 2 final dual clutch. That means there's 2 final drives, a negative and a final, or negative and a positive, and it will go forward and back at the same speeds, and it will be able to pivot sear. So that's if you want to do, this isn't the only type of gearbox you can do. If you're wanting to do something else, the AIO should be able to determine it. Once you have all that, make a copy, paste, and then everything should be working. You noticed during testing that the turret was pretty slow. There are ways around that. You under turrets again. You can click this drop down. There are a bunch of different options. So motors, electric motors and hydraulic motors, those are what's going to speed up the turrets that you have, depending on which one you use. Both have their advantages. You can just read the descriptions of what they do. For this purpose, I'm going to use electric motors. Motor scales will be important. The bigger the motor, the more powerful it is going to be for the turret, and more faster overall. Gear teeth also matter. I'm going to put it to 32. This is just a turret simulation. You don't need to touch any of this. Ignore that retard. Just place wherever you want the motors to be. It does not matter where you place the motors. Once you have the motors placed, right-click the motor to... The turrets can only support one type of motor. So you want 2 motors for your horizontal and your vertical. So this one's going to be for my horizontal. This one's going to be for vertical. And then you want to parent them to the horizontal. While we're at it, before we test it, there's also gyroscopes. Gyroscopes allow you to have stabilizers for your guns, so they're not going all over the place when you're moving. And you can do specific ones. You can do dual axis, which will be horizontal and vertical, or single axis if you want something specific for only your vertical or your horizontal. And you link this to your horizontal and your vertical. And then you parent it to your horizontal turret. And then we go to computers. There's direct and indirect. Direct is mainly for battle tanks. Indirect is for artillery, for targets you can't see. So direct is what you're looking at. Indirect is targets you can't see. So we're just going to be using direct. Then you want to parent this to your gun, I believe? Yes. And your... Not the turrets. Only your gun. And then you parent it to your horizontal. Now, when we test this, turret should slew much faster and be on target accurate. As you can see, it's going much faster. I forgot to mention, from what the controllers say, you also need to link your ballistics computer. Don't forget to do that. So this is basically all you need for the tank. depending on the server. If you're doing ACF servers, they're generally going to want to do or want you to use crew. For just normal build servers, normally those settings are turned off, but I will show you crew in a little bit. There's also other components you can add. Since we have a cannon, you notice this little purple area. That's the breech and where your shells are going to be loaded. You can go to components, and then later, or as of this date, later updates in ACF, there's autoloaders. And autoloaders can work on any gun that allows for breech loading. So it is very specific on what you need to do for autoloaders. So for your max caliber, it needs to match the caliber. We're using 100mm. And for your shells, it matters on the shell diameter, or your shell length in centimeters. So if you look at your ammo crates, you should see in one of the descriptions, shell dimensions, 100mm by 80 centimeters. And it's the exact same thing for that. So we need to put length to 80 centimeters. And now it should match the length of our ammo crates. And the direction of this does matter. I believe this end, the area that has a cutout, is the front. So you want to link this to your autoloader. And if you get your ACF tool out, or ACF menu, you notice the purple, or if you hover over the autoloader, you notice that little purple link. If you hover over the autoloader, it will tell you if it's out of alignment. So if I go like this, now it's saying autoloader is not aligned. Generally, you want it to be not directly close to the breech, but in line with the gun. So this should be fine. Now, we also want to parent this. Parent this to the horizontal. Now we also want to link the ammo crates to the autoloader. And now it will update and it will give you an estimated reload time. Now that we have that, we can also go into AIO Controller. There's a setting specifically if you're doing autoloaders, or if you just wanted something specific for whatever tank you're building. There's a reload angle. What this will do, when you fire your gun and you need to reload, the gun will reset to a specific angle to reload. So if you're using autoloaders, it's very helpful to have your gun snap back to place for the autoloader to load the gun for you. It does matter where the autoloader is compared to the gun. You can parent the autoloader to your horizontal, or you can parent the autoloader to your vertical. And if you do it to your vertical, you make oscillating turrets, which is the whole turret moves up and down along with your vertical. But for this sake of the tutorial, I'm going to parent this to the horizontal. Make sure you set your reload angle to 0.01, sorry, or whatever angle you have your autoloader set to. Other components you can add are under sensors, warning receivers, which I mentioned earlier. You can do laser warning and radar warning. So I'll add both of these to show you. Now I haven't used these, but I think the laser warning has to be on the outside of the tank to detect any lasers contacting the tank. And the same for radar warning. I could be wrong, but I would keep these outside just in case. If you know better, then do whatever. And these also need to be linked to your controller for them to work. The controls for the tank can be found under the controller and then control tab. It tells you all the controls you can do. If you want to do a specific type of weapon system for your tank, like a dual autocannon, and you want them to fire in different orders, you can do that. So let's just say I have dual autocannons on this. if you go to the AIO controller, there's a check mark to disable firing of your gun. This does not stop the control of moving your turret. This only stops the control of firing your gun. So if you tick that, and whatever, like a firing order, E2 that you have, you can wire fire to however the E2 of yours works, and it will sequential fire. Some more settings in the AIO. If your tank is very sensitive to braking, there are brake settings that you can adjust. You can also change brake engagement to be automatic or manual. You can also disable weld brakes, brake strengths. Brake strength is the main thing to edit for your brake strength. Not entirely sure how these work, so I generally keep it all at 0. If you know how these work, then obviously you can adjust them how you wish. I generally keep them the brake strength around 50. That seems more than enough in my case. If you are using a different type of transmission other than CVT, like if you're using a manual, there are shifting settings. You can have your shift time, your minimum and maximum RPM shift. Now that we got majority of those out of the way, I can show you how to do crew. So generally for the tank that I'm designing, you only want 3 crew: commander, gunner, and driver. Since we have an autoloader, there's no need for one. If your tank doesn't have an autoloader, then obviously you're going to need a loader. So for this, I'm going to do commander, gunner, and driver. Oh, driver. Alright, once you have your crew positioned the way you want, parent them to their respective bodies. So people on the turret are going to be parented to the horizontal, and the driver is going to be to the base plate. Now you want to link them, their crew, to their respective compartments. So driver, you link him to the base plate. Gunner, you link him to the horizontal. And commander, I believe you can also link him to the horizontal. I think he can be linked to any of the components: vertical, horizontal, gun, or base plate. But I'm going to just put him to the horizontal. This looks different. Unfortunately, the server I was on crashed, and I forgot to save my project. But what I showed you was basically the finished product of the tank. That's all the components you really needed to do. If you wanted to add armor, then you parent them to your respective entities for your turret, your vertical, and your base plate. Earlier I said I was going to show you how to do elastic suspension. I'm going to do that. Now, do you have to delete the whole thing and restart? No. Don't worry, my baby biscuit. I will show you another method. You will need the remover tool, but you're not going to delete anything. You're just going to press R on all the wheels and your base plate. Now what you do, go back to ACF suspension tool. You do the exact same thing. Hold shift, right click the base plate. But you're only going to select your road wheels, the wheels that are just mainly going to contact the ground. Once you do that, make sure you set your spring type to elastic. And then these are the settings I use for elastic. If you have the re-elastic tool, you can change these settings at any time. You don't have to keep redoing the suspension over and over. But these are generally the settings I use. And if you don't understand what these lines are, these are the arm types. So you can, as you can see to the side of my screen, they can lower or they change different directions for what I do. For my testing, arm X and arm Y for your arm type should be the same. Otherwise, your wheels are going to act all weird. Arm Z, I didn't really see a difference. The limiter length, I found to be at max 35. Your wheels won't get stuck above the tank or below. So these are generally the best settings I could find in my testing. Once you have all that, all the wheels selected, create drivetrain. And now that creates your suspension. Now I'm just going to do normal axis center for these 4 wheels up top. And then you want to ball socket advanced. The same tank wheel follow settings that I had earlier. And no collide. And once that's all done, you should have actual proper suspension and not stiff suspension. Ooh, bouncy. Earlier what I said about this is the basic structure of a tank track, and that you can just color this and use tank track tool instead. I'll show you how to set that up to get a basic idea as well. It's gonna be sped up, but you can pause and see what I do to, yeah. Now when you parent your tank track tool to your base plate, hold your C context menu, right click it, and then open your editor for your tank track. Here's where you can edit every little thing about it. So if you want your tracks to look a specific way without having this many road wheels on your track and save on server performance, that's how you do it. Generally what I like to do with the tank track tool is have the height as tall as whatever road wheel I have. So for instance, it'll be technically my sprockets. And then the lowest point will be how far down the ground wheels can go. These can probably go lower, but I'm going to keep it around this height. And once you set up your track however you want it to, you just go to your color tool, set your alpha all the way to 0, just color your main wheels. And wow, it looks like you have an actual track. And that concludes it for this tutorial. That is how you make a basic tank with the AIO controller. And obviously this can be any other shape you want. This is just to show you how this works. You can do something like this, or something like this. They're all different size and shapes, but it's all generally the same concept of how you set it up. I hope this helped you, and if there's something I missed, I'll probably make it in another tutorial video, or if I find something and want to show you how to add it to your tank. Thank you for watching. I hope it helped you understand how all this works, and until then, bye.